Welcome to another episode of Connect First. I'm Command Sgt Shawn Carns, your First Corps Command Sergeant Major, and today we have a great guest, the NCOLCOE Command Sergeant Major Tammy Everette. So please introduce yourself to the audience.
Thank you, Sergeant Major. I'm Sergeant Major Tammy Everette. I'm the Commandant of the Noncommissioned Officer Leadership Center of Excellence and the Sergeant's Major Academy at Fort Bliss, Texas.
Awesome. So, you know, back in the day, we all remember it as USMA,
Yeah.
right? Now it's called NCOLCOE. Can you kind of explain how that changed and then some stuff that falls beneath NCOLCOE now?
Yeah, so in 2017, the two commandants ago, Sergeant Major Jimmy Sellers said, I want to be a COE. So we became a center of excellence. I'm very oversimplifying it, but that's kind of how it happened. So underneath NCOLCOE and the Sergeant's Major Academy, we are in charge of all NCO and enlisted professional development, all the way from DLC 1 all the way up to the Sergeant's Major course.
Wow, that's a lot to be in charge of.
It is. We touch, over 380,000 soldiers a year, not just U.S. soldiers, but our joint partners as well as our international partners and allies as well.
Yeah, and so you talk about, multinational partners and everything like that, to include joint, because I know we have some joint people, personnel that come to our academies now, because I think it's important as we talk about a force that is joint, and you hear joint all the time, that we actually brought it into our professional non-commissioned officer corps education system to include the officer education system, PME, because you all do that a lot down at the Sergeant Major Academy.
We do. We have a agreement with the Air Force, so we have an Air Force instructor at the Sergeant's Major Academy, and we also have an Army instructor at Maxwell Air Force Base in one of their schools, which is our MLC equivalent. And then going through the Sergeant's Major course, we have all of our joint partners going through the course as well, to include Coast Guard.
That's awesome. Yeah. Again, it's important, so then the first time that they're dealing with joint or multinational partners isn't necessarily when they do exercise. Now, obviously we have soldiers before they go to PME that they're dealing with it, so they're getting a little experience before going to PME, but now they're sitting in a classroom with them and hearing how they might do something a little different than what we do, but then you look back on it, you're like, hey, that's a good idea, something we might want to bring into our force as the Army, that the Air Force might be doing, or Navy might be doing. That would be a good idea for our Army to be able to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Going through the Sergeant's Major course, that the relationships and the small talk and the interactions between your classmates is something that just can't be replicated anywhere. So they're getting a lot out of that.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And you also learn about their education system. Like, I was talking to the New Zealand SMA, and at their BLC, they start teaching about the art of leadership in their BLC. So it's just difference on how they do some of their non-commissioned officer education system that can definitely help out our education system.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And and then as we talk about development, we say leader development, but there's also professional military education, institutional knowledge, right? And you take what you learned there, that science of leadership, and then taking that, and then how do we get in the art of leadership and our operational development, our self-development in our education system. But I was just talking to the company commander First Sergeant course today is, we want them to read doctrine. Very important. But then we also have to do some other reading too to really understand some of the art of leadership, right? Reading a good book that Coach K just came out with, Leading with the Heart. Yep. I mean, great book about, talking about the art of leadership and, just not, leadership from the mind, but leadership from the heart, right? Because that's where the art of leadership is coming from the art of, from your heart.
Absolutely. I mean, what we do is a people business. So you have to understand people, and every decision that you make, there's a person and an entire life of someone and potentially a family that affects that. So absolutely.
Oh yeah. And even though we, people first, because that's our #1 priority here. Because everything we do, whether it's maintenance in a motor pool, whether it's driving a vehicle, there is a person behind that. And so that, you know, everyone will hear me say leadership is a relationship built on inspiration, trust, serving, and caring for others. Is building that relationship with somebody, not just professionally, but also personally. Not saying you're going to the club with your soldiers. That's not what I'm saying. But understand them as a person.
Yeah.
Right? Are they married? Do they have kids, brothers, sisters, mom and dad, or, you know, hobbies, I can keep going, right? So you understand them as a person, but then also professionally, what are their goals professionally and other things to help them out to become a better, not just a better soldier, but also a better person.
That's right. You got to understand people and your soldiers in order to lead them effectively. You got to understand what's their motivation. You got to understand, you know, why of why they're serving, to get them to accomplish the things that they want to accomplish and that the organization needs them to accomplish. So yeah, definitely don't advocate to go to the club with your soldier, but getting to know them. What are their interests? I mean, that's how you relate to them. You know, if they share the same, you know, football team or basketball team, you know, that kind of small talk, that's getting to know your soldier.
Oh man,
Yeah,
agreed.
absolutely.
Like, you know, me and John Brunson both like the Pittsburgh Steelers, so we always talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I'm sorry.
Right? Yeah. They're coming around, right? Type of deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's, you know, you said that why, you know, and obviously another great book is Start With Why by Simon Sinek, right? I advocate for a lot of them books to read. But yeah, understand their why. Because each and every one of you know we have character in the leadership requirements model, that character. You know, I think we can mold that a little bit, obviously, but they get that character from the way they're raised. That is understanding them personally, how they're raised. To get the understanding, hey, like me, I didn't have a lot of money growing up. So guess what? I'm kind of tight with my money, right? I like saving money. But no one will know that if you don't have them conversations with them. You know, and people say these hard conversations. I'd say just have a conversation.
Just talk.
Right?
Yeah.
It's pretty simple.
Yep.
It's not hard to do that. So having them conversations, it's also where you build that relationship with them.
I think on the topic of books, you know, and conversations and getting to know people, one of my favorite books is Legacy. The book about, from Kerr, a book about the All Blacks, the New Zealand rugby team.
Yes.
And, you know, and it's really just a book about humility. And even though you're the leader, you know, you still got to sweep the shed, you know. So as leaders, I think it's important that soldiers see you doing the regular, ordinary tasks as well, so they can relate, right? They can see themselves in you and you in them. Sometimes we sit up on a high pedestal, you know, and the soldiers are kind of like, man, they're way up there, but we were soldiers. We're still soldiers. You know, nothing's changed.
Exactly.
You know, I can go sweep the motor pool just like the next person. You know, so.
No, and that's setting the example.
Yep, that's
right?
absolutely.
When you're out there with them, getting your hands dirty with them, and that's what makes a great non-commissioned officer, to be able to know, hey, I'm out here with you. You know, because another thing, you know, we talk about this care, right? And what does that mean? And my piece of the care is, hey, no matter what you go through, good or bad, I don't have your back. I'm going to walk right beside you and hold your hand through whatever you go through, right? So if you're down there sweeping the motor pool, I'm going to be down there helping you sweep that motor pool, right? If you have to go to a medical appointment, I'm going to be there right with you on that medical appointment. Because who cares for them when they're not at the appointment or when they're not sweeping the motor pools? We do as non-commissioned officers. So that's where, you know, getting to understand them and who they are and helping them out through that is huge.
Yeah.
Right? It's very important.
And to me, there is no greater job, there is no greater profession than being a non-commissioned officer. Like, where else in the world do you have the responsibility to care for people like that? Nowhere. I mean, it's just amazing.
You're exactly
it's amazing.
Right. And the empowerment that we get from our officer corps, right? But it took time to build that. It's not like...
It's trust. It's trust.
200 years worth
Yep.
of to where we got to nowadays, and actually 200-ish to where we got. So it's not like you build that over a day and boom, we got that trust. I mean, it took time to build where we're at nowadays. And you said a great word, trust. And that's why that's in my leadership definition is trust. If you build the relationship with them, if you care for them, you're going to get that trust,
right.
and you also get that inspiration where they want to get up every single morning because they love their leadership and want to come into work every single day, into their profession, and be part of our team.
Absolutely. You got me fired up, Sergeant Major.
know,
I want to
I
like
know.
re-enlist and start all over.
Because it goes back to the same thing with, you know, your students. You get a whole new students every single year, right? And so how do you build that trust with them? How do you get them inspired saying, hey, I want to come to the academy every single day and learn to be a better Sergeant Major?
Yeah, it's tough. You know, when I in-briefed the first class, class 74, you know, I talked to them about this is a different environment. You're coming from high operational tempo, you're doing a lot of tasks, you're coming somewhere where you're not going to be in charge of anybody but yourself, right? And that takes some getting used to, so it's not easy. But it's just continuously, you know, talking to them of saying, hey, quitting is not an option, okay? Our warrior ethos, I will never quit. You can't quit. We're not going to allow you to quit. But kind of talking them through, you know, the hardship that you're going through during class, it's not, you know, insurmountable. We can get through it. We're going to help you get through it. And it doesn't change. You know, we all have things that happen in our life, but we look to our left and we look to our right of someone to kind of walk us through that. So we do that for soldiers, but we need people to do it for us too. Like, we're soldiers. We're people.
Oh man.
That's right.
No, I agree. And so, you know, you said an interesting thing about not quitting. But what I always find kind of difficult is people are afraid to raise their right hand and say, I need help.
That's right.
Right? Oh, I got this type of deal until they're too far.
Yep.
And I tell them all the time, I raised my right hand to say I need some help.
Yep.
It's okay if you need some help, we're here to help, right? Because there is plenty other people, to include ourselves, that have passed the Sergeant Major Academy. And I always look at it.
You can do it.
Yeah, exactly. if you know, we did it, you can do it.
That's right.
I mean, it's pretty simple. Again, it's about asking for help.
Yep.
Let the barrier down, ask for help, and we're here to help.
Yeah. We have the great, what class were you?
63.
Oh, all in.
I did distance learning. I was deployed in 173rd, so I did non-residence course. But yes, I got all the videos and everything else that went with that to watch all the all-in stuff, yes.
Yeah, so when we went through, we didn't have this thing called Senior Leader Sustainment, but we do now. And it's our version of H2F. So we have with us, you know, we don't own them, they're on borrow from the hospital, but, you know, occupational therapists, dietitian, nutrition, physical therapists, kinesiologists, behavioral health. We have all that right there so that way we can limit the downtime in the classroom. It's very easy for students to just walk in there and say, hey, I need to talk to somebody real quick. I mean, it's amazing. And just having the proximity there, I mean, it gets utilized. Oh, you know, because students can just walk right in there without fear of anything. So it's great. We really trying to change the culture at the Sergeant's Major course to say, hey, if you need help, it's all right. We all need help at some point in time. It's okay. Go there, get the help that you need, because you know when you graduate, you're going to hit the ground running. There's an expectation in the force when they get a Sergeant's Major course graduate of all the things you're going to do, all the greatness you're going to do. So take care of yourself now.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And I love how you all set up the Core Compass mentorship.
Yeah.
For them, you know, I've mentored one last cycle and I have two this cycle. Yep. I think that is very beneficial to give them an understanding, because you're getting it from the ground truth. Hey, we've done the Officer Major job, battalion, brigade, and so on, and give them the ground truth, what to expect, hey, what does an op sergeant major look like, all that kind of stuff. I think it's very beneficial that you all set that up.
Yeah, this, as you know, this is the second year doing that, and we doubled participation, still a voluntary program with the students, but we've doubled the participation from 73 to 74. But great feedback from the students. I mean, they just love being able to talk to someone that they particularly don't know, and that is just, you know, giving them guidance and mentorship, and just they're just sucking in all the information. Like, they love it. And I'm really grateful for sergeant majors like you that are volunteering your time to do it.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I think we have to give
yeah.
back. I mean, they're the future us.
That they
right?
are. Absolutely.
So if we don't mentor them, I mean,
yeah.
you know, what are we going to get
yeah.
in the future? So I think it's very beneficial to mentor anybody
yeah.
To help them out. To get the understanding of what to expect, what's going to be, you know, you expect from a op sergeant major, you know, what am I going to do as your responsibilities? Because they don't know. I mean,
yep.
you know, as I say all the time to everybody is, you know, you watch these first sergeants. When I was in E7 and my first sergeant had to go in, I became the first sergeant, right? You're like, oh, I got this, you know, I watched him, I'm good. Until you're sitting in that seat, with them duties and responsibilities, you show a big difference. Now with their mentorship program, we're actually teaching some of that stuff that's going to be on their shoulders before they're sitting in that seat.
Yep.
So I think
they're ready.
Huge. Amen.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Yep.
Agree 100% with you. So thank you very much for setting that up. And I know not necessarily you, but for the Sergeant Major Academy setting up, because I think it's very beneficial. And then so you know, you talked about the trust piece in there. What are some of the things that you all do in some of the courses to get them to understand that trust and that care, right? As they might be an op sergeant major and necessarily a command sergeant major, but how do you talk through with some of that stuff in the courses with them?
Yeah, well, so in BLC, you know, we have Talk Like a Leader, so that way, you know, new NCOs can really understand how to connect and have a conversation with someone. Just talk, you know. And then, you know, through ALC and SLC, they do the individual development plan with their instructors and kind of talk through some of the assessments that they do. And then in the Sergeant's Major course, it's just, again, it's communication. Like, you build trust through actions and communication. And that's what we do. I mean, it sounds very simple, but it goes a long way.
Well, so I just got done talking to a sergeant the other day, and there were some challenges, but the sergeant was doing the right thing, right? And the care piece, I didn't understand that care thing as a sergeant. I was not a good sergeant or a good staff sergeant as I look back on it, right? But he understood that word care. And I attribute that to going through BLC and getting that understanding now that me and you didn't necessarily get when we went through PLDC back in the day, right? So I think that's good. And we continue to adapt and make our PME better as we see where we need to make some changes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because, you know, we're getting ready to put land navigation.
We are.
Right?
Yeah.
In there. And I think it's phenomenal as we talk about, you know, master the fundamentals, as the SMA talks about getting back to the basics. Understanding, you know, how to use that map, protractor, and compass. Because there's one thing about that I always tell everyone. It's, you got to know how to use the map, protractor, and compass. But there's also some confidence going behind that. You know, you get out there. I've never found my point first time walking out there. So there's some confidence on knowing what to do to be able to find your point, right? So the confidence helps just not only on the navigation course, but also as a leader.
Absolutely. Yep. We are in the beginning of solidifying BLC 3.0, which, as you said, brings back land navigation into BLC. Most of the NCO academies have been doing it. The ones that have, you know, GPS devices, we've ordered them and they're out there now. So we're on the final stages of solidifying the POI, and then once that gets approved, then everyone will be doing it. But you're absolutely right. It's mastering the fundamentals. It's getting back to the art of war fighting, which is one of the chief's 4 focus areas. And you know, the focus area that TRADOC is responsible for is strengthening the profession, right? And we strengthen the profession through our NCOPME, through validating warfighting tasks, and then training and educating our future and current non-commissioned officers.
No, I think that's great. And what I've also, you know, been communicating to everybody is, hey, there is training that should be being accomplished at the operational development before I come to PME, right? So when I went to PODC back in the day, and you told me get out and do a then PT formation, now ACFT, right? But PT formation is, I knew how to do that. Drill and ceremony, I knew how to do that because I was taught that in the operational development. So what, you know, is getting them to understand, hey, PME is going to teach you some stuff. But operational development don't mean stop. That means there's some pre-training that you should be doing. And then there's continued training as the operational development after I come out of BLC, I come out of ALC and SLC.
So, you know, NCOPME, TRADOC, we validate that the operational force is doing all the things, or the Army, you know, because it's not just the operational force, are doing all the things that they're supposed to do. And all it's doing is it's putting the spotlight back on the non-commissioned officer. You know, we are in charge of individual training, individual crews and teams. It's putting that back on there. So you and I, we went through PLDC, so our team leader, squad leader, they knew all the tasks taught in PLDC. So you know what? They were going to make sure we were ready. So they walked us through the extended rectangular formation. They let us do land navigation and taught us to make sure we were good to go. They made sure we could pass the APFT. All of those things, that's what we're trying to make sure that our NCOs do. And you know, put it on the training schedule. You know, you got your team, and you're like, okay, this 6 to 8 week training schedule, we got to put in some time so that way I can train, you know, Specialist Everette on, you know, how to conduct PT or PRT, right? Just put it on the training schedule and then, you know, plan and resource it appropriately and then go execute it. So it's just re-emphasizing the role of non-commissioned officer. It's so important.
Oh man, agree 100% with you. Because we're responsible for that training, right? Because we should have mastered the fundamentals, master our craft. Now we're the master trainers.
That's right.
Right? And that prep beforehand, that's where them team leaders now, that's that sergeant and that staff sergeant that's on first class at that platoon level is responsible for some of that operational development to get him or her ready to go to their first PME, right?
If you are on my team, and I don't care what echelon it is, you're going to be on the best team possible, right? And I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure my team is trained, regardless of the task. So it's that ownership and it's the pride, you know, in your organization and just being an NCO. You know, go through the NCO creed. I mean, I want non-commissioned officers to feel that when they say that. I want them to understand what that means. And most importantly, I want them to execute it. I mean, it's so powerful.
Now you're talking my language.
Yeah, it's so powerful.
That's speaking from the heart right there.
Yeah.
Huh? And I take pride in that. I mean, perfect example, you know, if, you know, we go and someone would fail BLC when they came back, you're held accountable for that.
Heck yeah.
And you felt like dirt.
Heck yeah. Well, it's a failure.
Yeah.
Right? So if my soldier fails, I mean, that's a failure on me. That's a leadership failure on me. You know, even if I'm a battalion or a brigade sergeant major, you know, I'm going to make sure all my soldiers that are going to BLC are ready. And they're not going to fail. Because if I have to put that on my shoulders, then guess what? I'm going to do it by reinforcing all the things, you know, at the sergeant level to make sure all the NCOs between the soldier and me are doing all the things that they're supposed to do. I mean, it's just, it's the pride in the patch that you wear, and it's the pride in, you know, the rockers and the chevrons that are on your chest.
Yeah, there you go.
There is nothing better.
I know.
Yeah.
You
got me fired up. You got me so fired up right now.
We're both fired up now. I like this. Hey, you know, I appreciate our conversation today. This was great, and you know, thank you for coming to JBLM to be able to be on the episode of Connect First and bestowing your knowledge on our audience is amazing. So I'll give you last closing comments to our audience.
just thank you for giving me the time. It's been a great visiting the NCO Academy here. It's a little bit colder here than it is in El Paso, but just thank you. The team's been very welcoming, and I really appreciate your time.
Of course,
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much to the audience for turning into another episode of Connect First, so thank you very much.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to Connect First podcast, where we discuss leadership at its core. You can find Connect First on all your major podcast streaming platforms. Follow First Corps on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for information on upcoming episodes, as well as all things First Corps. Rate, review, and subscribe to us on YouTube and click that notification bell so you'll know exactly when we drop a new episode. Till next time.